Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of NFL with Kyle. Today, we're going to be getting you caught up on the latest NFL news, including some rumors out there that a schedule release is right around the corner. We also had a little bit of movement within the NFL today. A wide receiver that, in my opinion, is very underrated was found a new home with an old coach that he knows very well without giving it away. Okay. So we're going to be going over that. And then what I was really excited about was the NFL released an article written by one of their analysts over at NFL.com about 10 rookies in the best situations to succeed in year one and beyond. And as you guys know, I talk about this a lot where they say you need a little bit of luck to be a Hall of Famer or win Super Bowls, and people are like, no, there's no luck involved. But how many times have we seen really good quarterbacks go to really just dysfunctional situations, and then everybody goes, oh, another bust. But nobody ever thinks about, well, why do the Bears have, never had a 4,000-yard passer? Maybe it's not all the quarterbacks. Maybe there's a problem within the Bears organization. Why can't the Jets land a quarterback? So there are times that quarterbacks, not just quarterbacks, but players get drafted and they go into a situation and they flourish because they're in the right situation. Coming to mind right away, I think of people that are drafted by guys like Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, these offensive-friendly guys, these new style coaches that want to fit the player to the scheme, not force the scheme onto the player. So I'm excited to go down this list because I'm excited to see, okay, who are these NFL writers suggesting are going to have an amazing first year? Think about last year with CJ Stroud and Sam Laporta. That was written by the same writer last year. Okay, so last year he whiffed on Bryce Young. I didn't. I'll be honest about that. And CJ Stroud and Sam Laporta were a couple names that these writers said we're going to have a good year one. And they were right about that. Now, in case you're among the increasingly smaller percentage of people who don't pay attention to women's college basketball, let me fill you in. In Johnson's redshirt freshman campaign for South Carolina, the Gamecocks season ended in a national semifinal loss to Iowa. During that game, Hawkeyes star Caitlin Clark left Johnson wide open behind the three-point line, waving off her opponent to signify she wasn't at all worried about Johnson as a shooting threat. Johnson turned down the shot, and the moment went viral. Fast forward to this year's national championship game, Johnson redeemed herself late in the first half, stealing the ball away from Clark and making a layup, sending South Carolina into the break with a 3-point lead. Johnson and the Gamecocks would go on to win 87-75, completing the revenge tour in style. So I'm channeling my inner Raven Johnson, and I'm ready to hit this exercise out of the park because, admittedly, there were some whiffs last year. So to turn it all around, let's see what the writer says. Okay, coming in at number one, ranked number one. Okay, and actually I'm going to do this the other way. We're going to start at number 10 and work our way up to number one. Okay, coming in at number 10 for best rookies in the best situations in 2024 is Zach Frazier. Zach Frazier, the center out of West Virginia, he was drafted in the second round with pick 51 overall. The Steelers clearly entered the draft with one thing on their mind, bolstering their offensive line. After selecting offensive tackle Troy Fontenot, excuse me, I just drank some Zip Fizz. It's got carbonation in it. Troy Fontenot in round one. Pittsburgh doubled down in round two by taking Frazier, a brawler who embodies everything this franchise is about. His experience and toughness will allow him to step in immediately as the pivot for an overhauled unit with a new offensive coordinator, former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith. I agree. And when you look at the offensive line for the Steelers, you can make a real argument that this is the best O-line that they've had since maybe 2014. This is a really good line. So Zach Frazier definitely coming into a good situation, playing alongside Troy Fontenot. It should be a competitive group of people. All right, coming in at number 9, Brian Murphy II, drafted round 1, 16 overall. And this situation feels similar to how Jalen Carter slotted in with the Eagles in 2023. Carter logged just 1 sack as a rookie, but certainly made his impact as a rotational player, recording 6 sacks, 9 QB hits, and 2 forced fumbles. Murphy should see more playing time as a starter for the Seahawks, but he'll also be able to make the same type of splash plays Carter did, simply because there are so many established disruptors around him. Murphy joins a defense front that already features Leonard Williams, Draymond Jones, who they got from Denver last year, Jaron Reed, Boy Maffey, Darrell Taylor. Murphy's skill set adds an extra dimension for new Seahawks head coach Mike McDonald, who loves creating one-on-one opportunities for the rookie. So Byron Murphy coming in at number 9 for the Seahawks. At number 8, we have Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Despite losing Calvin Ridley in free agency, the Jaguars still made a concerted effort this offseason to surround Trevor Lawrence with more talent, also signing Gabriel Davis from the Buffalo Bills on a 3-year deal, and drafting Thomas in the first round. Alongside Davis, there's also Christian Kirk, because they did end up losing one of the receivers. I'm blanking on his name right now. The LSU product, not Calvin Ridley, it was another one. The LSU product should begin as a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 with plenty of upside to develop and grow within the offense throughout the season. With his playmaking ability, speed, and natural talent, Thomas should elevate into a bigger role before too long. And I agree. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, a great quarterback. LSU known for spitting out polished wide receivers that are ready to contribute immediately. Calvin Ridley is gone, and to me, this is a replacement between the Calvin Ridley, Trevor Lawrence kind of relationship last year. And I will say, Calvin Ridley to me is one of the best route runners in the game. I know he missed 1 season from gambling, but I'm not convinced that Calvin Ridley is what we saw last year. I still think he has the kind of upside to still be a top 10 receiver in the league. So with that said, yes, Brian Thomas Jr. on paper appears to fit in with the Jaguars. It appears to be a good move, but Calvin Ridley on paper appeared to be really good last offseason. In a lot of fantasy drafts, we're drafting him, in the 4th, 5th round. Sometimes even, I guess you would say lower, 3rd round. That was supposed to be a really great addition for the Jaguars, and it didn't pan out. So I understand putting Brian Thomas Jr. here at number 8, but I'm going to kind of reserve my feelings after being humbled by Calvin Ridley, because I was one of the people last year saying, Calvin Ridley, make sure you get Calvin Ridley. He's a beast. He's a monster. It didn't. I mean, Calvin Ridley had his catches and his moments, but a lot left to be desired. I don't know if a rookie is going to come in and make a huge difference, but I like their odds. I like their chances. I still don't have a problem with him being on the list. Maybe there was more to Calvin Ridley than met the eye when you were watching him on Sundays. Maybe that's why the Jaguars didn't want to work out a long-term contract with him. I'm not sure, but we will find out if Brian Thomas Jr. can have more success than Calvin Ridley. Coming in at number 7, we have Edgerrin Cooper, the Green Bay Packers 2nd-round pick, selected at number 45 overall, the linebacker out of Texas A&M. This was a great value pick. The Packers selected the best linebacker in the draft midway through the 2nd round. Cooper has great speed and pursuit ability. Plus, he fits perfectly into Jeff Hafley's blitz-heavy offense, their new defensive coordinator. The Texas A&M star had 8 sacks and 17 tackles for a loss in 2023. Can he just come in and aggressively play his role? I mean, he also has Quay Walker on the other side. He's behind a productive defensive line that has Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, Devontae Watt, Preston Smith. The front seven is going to be a nightmare, and that may lead to Edgerrin Cooper capitalizing on more opportunities than you would normally see with a rookie. But like I said, great value pick. You get the best linebacker in the entire draft midway through the second round. Hats off to the Packers. All right, coming in at number 6, we actually have the Packers' arch rival, the one and only Chicago Bears, the Bears. Rome Odunze coming in at number 6, round 1, number 9 overall. Of course, the Bears had 2 picks in the top 10 of the draft, selecting Caleb Williams number 1, and then turning around and drafting a receiver when we said, oh, maybe they're not going to do that because they brought in Keenan Allen, right? So when you consider that the first 10 picks were mostly quarterbacks and wide receivers, it made sense that the Bears would bring in Keenan Allen because then they could capitalize on other positions that are falling, right? That was kind of my logic. You bring in Keenan Allen and then you already drafted your quarterback at number 1 overall. So you basically get anybody you want in at that pick number 9 on the defensive side of the ball. No defenders have been picked at that point. I thought the Bears might go defense, considering Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, but no, they add Rome Odunze. Unlike the 2 wideouts taken before him, Odunze joins a receiver room that has established stars in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, and the rookie is in an incredible situation. He'll face plenty of number 2 and number 3 cornerbacks early on in his career. Odunze possesses exceptional ball skills and has the ability to create separation and win against defenders due to his body control, his positioning, and his great hands. It's going to be a lot of fun watching Odunze build a rapport with Caleb Williams this fall and beyond. And ultimately, Keenan Allen has struggled with injuries. He was not a long-term plan. He was more like the addition you see a team make that's really, don't get too excited, Bear fans, but you see these moves, the Von Miller in the middle of the season to the Rams, these teams that are like, Ndamukong Suh getting put on a team late in the season. These moves where they're like, we are right here. If we could just get one more Keenan Allen, one more player that would just take us over the top. So that's why I said don't get too excited, because the addition of Keenan Allen almost reminds me of what a team does when they're gearing up to make a Super Bowl run and just adding an extra weapon for no reason. But Rome Odunze is not just a no-reason player. He's, of course, going to learn from Keenan Allen. He's going to learn from DJ Moore. And Rome Odunze is a do-it-all wide receiver. If you need him to block, he can do that. If you need him to play the slot, he can do that. You need him to go outside, he can do that. He can do anything that they ask him to do. He's one of the most versatile receivers, if not the most versatile receiver in this year's draft. So if the Bears were going to pick a receiver, I think there's a good chance that if Rome Odunze was off the board and it was Malik Neighbors on the board, I think there's maybe a chance that the Bears wouldn't have done it. But with it being a do-it-all wide receiver, that gives the Bears a lot of flexibility within the offensive packages that they're going to be running. So I thought it was a really good pick for the Bears, and we will see. It looks great on paper. Coming in at number 5, we have Jaden Daniels, quarterback, LSU, and he was, of course, selected with the number 2 overall pick. Washington has a new regime led by general manager Adam Peters and head coach Dan Quinn, defensive coordinator for the Cowboys the last couple years. Worked for months in preparation for drafting a quarterback. The Commanders also signed veterans along the offensive line. Nick Allegretti, Tyler Baidazi. I probably said both of those names wrong, but offensive linemen. while also adding tight end Zach Ertz and, man, so much carbonation. While also adding tight end Zach Ertz and Austin Eckler to fortify the passing catching options that already included Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson, which, guys, Jahan Dotson is a really good weapon. Okay. Terry McLaurin, I don't have to, obviously he's going to probably be an equivalent to Mike Evans, 10 years of 1,000 yards. I mean, this guy has dealt with a constant quarterback carousel going around and around. Terry McLaurin, though, he puts up numbers no matter who's throwing the ball. I mean, this is a good offense. Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Zach Ertz, Jaden Daniels, and then at running back, you got Austin Eckler. I agree. Jaden Daniels is on paper in a situation where I think he's going to go out and succeed early. I think he's going to be I said he was my favorite quarterback in this year's draft. I think that he's the kind of guy that can actually turn the Commanders around. This is, when RG3 came into the game, when Deshaun Watson came into the game, they had success very early. And you see a lot of times with these quarterbacks that are dual threats, like a true dual threat. He accounted for 55 total touchdowns last year at LSU. And I believe he only threw for 40. So, I mean, this guy is a do-it-all Lamar Jackson type. And I think he's going to have success early. It's going to be a show. Coming in at number 4, we have Jared Verse. And in my mock draft, I projected that Jared Verse would drop to 20 overall, and he ended up dropping to 19 overall, but I did have the Rams taking him. So the Rams found some real dudes in last year's draft, defensive tackle Kobe Turner and Byron Young, both third-round selections who now lead the defense's charge of the team's post-Aaron Donald world. Having proved that they can get the most out of the young pair, the Rams now add a first-round talent to the pass-rushing mix. Verse is a tough, physical edge rusher who will be able to focus on getting after the quarterback without having to take on too many other responsibilities, thanks to the guys around him. And one thing that they're leaving out that is a major detail is that Jared Verse also has Braden Fisk, who was, in my opinion, one of the best defensive tackles in this year's draft. And Jared Verse and Braden Fisk played together at Florida State last year, so they already have a connection. They've already worked together. I mean, Jared Verse was considered one of the best edge rushers in this year's draft, and Braden Fisk was a huge reason that Jared Verse was viewed that way. And now they're both sticking together. So the Rams defense is going to be an absolute just beautiful thing to watch if you like defense next year. Coming in at number 3, we got to give the offensive tackle some more love. Joe Alt out of Notre Dame going to the Los Angeles Chargers with the 5th overall pick. Harbaugh had just been adamant about building a tough physical team in LA. That starts with the trenches, so it made perfect sense. The Chargers nabbed the top offensive lineman in the draft with the 5th overall pick. The towering Alt could succeed in any offense, but combining Harbaugh's philosophy with the fact that the Notre Dame product will bookend the Bolts front opposite Rashawn Slater, a top 5 tackle when healthy, makes an amazing fit. I mean, you got Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. These are potentially 2 of the best 5 tackles in the game, and they're on the same team. So Harbaugh really staying true to what his philosophy is and what he said he was going to do. Coming in at number 2, this one hurts me to say, but it is Xavier Worthy going to the Kansas City Chiefs, drafted with the 28th overall pick. After the Falcons selected Michael Penix Jr. at number 8 overall, the Bills made the second truly head-scratching move of the draft's opening night at number 28, allowing the Chiefs to trade up to get the exact piece that's been missing from the back-to-back Super Bowl champions offense. Andy Reid loves a speedy deep threat. Deshaun Jackson, Tyreek Hill, of course, we know they never really got that replacement for Tyreek Hill, even though they've won 2 Super Bowls without him. But Xavier Worthy fits into that role like a glove as a lightning fast playmaker who will win downfield and open up the middle for guys like Travis Kelce and Marquise Brown. This is going to work. This is going to be a good fit. Bills are going to hear this forever. When Xavier Worthy scores in the AFC Championship game against Buffalo, whether it's a divisional round or a regular season game, the Bills are not going to hear the end of this for a very, very long time. And coming in at number 1, the number 1 rookie set up for success, Caleb Williams, quarterback out of USC. It's hard to think of a previous number 1 overall pick who is put in a better situation than Caleb Williams is in Chicago. He joins an offense that has a solid line, a talented new running back in free agent DeAndre Swift, and perhaps the best wide receiver room in the league with DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. That's ideal for any young quarterback, let alone one with Williams' rare skill set, boasting the ability to beat opponents from the pocket or on the go. Caleb is set to thrive with this roster, which also offers far better defensive support than anything the quarterback experienced at USC. And there's just not much to disagree with this Caleb Williams pick. I mean, you go down the list and you think of teams that have had the number 1 overall pick. They're normally going to situations that are pretty dysfunctional, and they're being asked to turn it around. The Bears were already in the middle of a turnaround. I believe they finished 5-2 in their last 7 games. They were not, such a bad team that they had the number 1 overall pick. Of course, they got it from the Panthers in the DJ Moore. It was they gave him DJ Moore in the first round pick to be able to move up to draft Bryce Young. So the Bears had the number 1 overall pick the year before. I don't know why I'm forgetting this. Let me see. I'm going to look up Bryce Young Bears trade. So the Bears originally acquired the 61st overall pick as part of the Young trade. Okay, here we go. Okay. So, okay. Obviously, Young ended up being the headliner in this deal. The Alabama product became the number 1 overall pick in 2023 of the NFL draft. Though 9 weeks of the 2023 season, that hasn't gone yet to plan. All right, so the Bears got DJ Moore. They got Darnell Wright. After trading down from the first pick to the 9th, the Bears selected Darnell Wright. They got Tyreek Stevenson. The Bears originally acquired the 61st overall pick as part of the Young trade, but they moved up 5 spots to select Stevenson. Then Caleb Williams. The Panthers struggled during Young's rookie season and ended up with the NFL's worst record and gifted the Bears the number 1 overall pick, and they used it to get a franchise quarterback. So the Bears still have a 2025 second round pick at their disposal as part of this trade. So the payoff is far from over. As it stands, the Bears received a solid haul that could become an all-time great package if Williams can turn into a top-tier NFL quarterback. But if Young bounces back from the Panthers in 2024 or Williams struggles, Carolina may be able to close the gap. So let me see. The worst record in NFL 2022, right? Yeah, 2022. All right. So the Carolina had not 22, not 23. So last year was Carolina. So it was the Bears. Okay, so the Bears had the worst record by a team in 2022 with a record of 3-14. So the Bears could have drafted CJ Stroud. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because they're going to say, oh, well, they got Caleb Williams and it was such a great trade. It's like, okay, but the Bears also could have stayed put and drafted CJ Stroud, who looks like a top 5 quarterback in the NFL as a rookie. Okay. So to me, when you're judging Caleb Williams' success in relative to whether this was a good deal or not, Caleb Williams needs to be better than CJ Stroud. That's the real measure. Because look at what CJ Stroud has done to the Texans. So will he be better? We will find out. But the ceiling is, those are big shoes to fill. CJ Stroud did something that not many people can do, and that's come out and succeed right away in the NFL. So those are the 2024 NFL Draft, 10 rookies in the best situations to succeed in year one and beyond. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Now, I'm getting some buzz right now on the internet about the fact that the NFL is releasing their schedule. Okay, the NFL is releasing their schedule. It is coming up here in a second. According to Jay Fowler on ESPN, the Broncos were indeed making calls to other teams about trading up. This was done to bait the Vikings into a trade up, which they did. So I don't know if you've heard this, but apparently Sean Payton's guy was always Bo Nix. But in order to make the Vikings trade up, which the Vikings did end up trading up, the Broncos made real calls to other teams about trading up. He says the Bears heard from Denver, and it wasn't clear who they were targeting, or if they even had a target. So very funny stuff right there. And I just want to make sure that we are live right now. Yeah, we are live on Twitter. If you guys are visiting right now, happy to have you in here. All right, so what's going on with the NFL schedule release in 2024? The NFL posted on X today a video that said, the following schedule release preview has been approved for football fans everywhere in the league. This is a release date for the schedule release date. I mean, talk about being dramatic here. Not even the release date in the video, just telling us that the release date is coming up. And I said this all off season that the NFL has been doing as well as they can, not letting the schedule be leaked. Now, with that said, whether it's Reddit or NFL owners or family members of Travis Kelce, there's just information that gets out there. So the NFL is really trying to say, hey, maybe if we don't give them, 3 months heads up of the scheduled release date, we can just slide it in there on a day that no one's thinking about it. But if you're an NFL fan, you're thinking about it because it's May. And we know that the schedule happens in May after the draft. So we're getting really warm. I don't think it will be this Thursday. I think it will be next Thursday. So if I had to bet on it, the NFL will release their schedule next Thursday. And that should be really, really fun. Some people are saying it could happen on May 9th. But other people agree with that. Of course, May 9th is this Thursday. But looking at the schedule release, looking ahead of the schedule release, I wanted to go over the strength of schedule for all 32 teams ahead of the reveal. Now, I'm going to do my own strength of schedule. My strength of schedule algorithm I spent 2 years working on. It consists of flight time. It consists of how long they're going to be on the flight, and then also adding in jet lag if they're going back 3 hours, forward 3 hours. And also, I'm not looking at a team's record last season. It doesn't mean that much. It doesn't mean nothing. But what good is it to say, okay, the Bears went 7-9 last year. Okay, so let's say 7-9 equals out as a 5 out of 10 in strength. So we give the Bears a 5. But the Bears drafted Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze. They bring in DeAndre Swift. They're not what they were last year. They're an entirely new team. and they need to kind of be judged accordingly to who these teams are now. Kansas City Chiefs had an offensive weakness, and then they drafted the fastest wide receiver in the draft in Xavier Worthy, right? So the Chiefs, are they a little bit better? They were able to secure a long-term contract with the best defensive player in the league right now in DJ Jones. So that's why I do my own. But here's the kind of cheap way of doing it. You just look at everyone's schedule that they played last year, and you just judge it based on how many wins a team had last year. Very lazy, but this is the early 2024 NFL strength of schedule. And Bill said, hey, surprise, in late, going to have to rewatch the first 30 minutes. Happy to have you in here, Bill. And coming in at number 1, so the way this is going to work is 1 is going to be the hardest schedule in the NFL. And then, of course, 32, actually, there's a two-way tie for 31, is going to be the easiest. So coming in at number 1, we have the Cleveland Browns with a .547. Actually, I'm just going to share this. And let's share screen. Here we go. All right. So at number 1, we have the Cleveland Browns, 547. Then we get to the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, then the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this is almost the entire NFC North coming in at 1, 2, and 3. The only team in the NFC North that's not here is the Bengals. But the Browns, Ravens, and Steelers are going to have their work cut out for them next year. And then tied for 4th, you got the Packers and the Texans. The Packers and the Texans. So the Packers, I think, are going to be a good team in their own right, along with the Houston Texans. I see the Texans and the Packers are kind of a mirror image of each other right now. A young team that's well coached with a rising star at quarterback. So both of these teams having the exact same .526 strength of schedule. I think that's a sign that this is pretty that is done somewhat well, whoever's making the schedule, because, and I know no one makes the schedule, it's done ahead of time, but the way it works is you play certain divisions, and then every 4 years you basically play every division, and then you play teams that finished in the same place as you did in your division last year. So the Broncos finished 4th in their division, so they played a lot of teams that came in 4th in their division, which means the schedule is going to be a little bit easier. So the Packers and Texans both had a very similar season, so not surprising to see them tied here. Coming in at number 6, we have a two-way tie with the Buffalo Bills and the New York Giants. Now, this is one of those situations where it's like, why do the Giants have the same strength of schedule as the Buffalo Bills? And like I said, I need to redo this to give you the true strength of schedule, but the Bills are definitely, has had more recent success than the Giants. This is going to be tough for the Giants, having a top 10 hardest schedule in the NFL. But that's what they get. That's what they get, Coming in at number 8, we have a three-way tie with the Jaguars, Raiders, and Patriots, all at .512. Patriots, like I said, another situation where they had the 3 overall pick because they were so bad. They're going through an entire change, putting in a new quarterback, new philosophy, new draft picks. It's a lot of new. And then as a gift for their, welcome home present, they go ahead and give, Gerard Mayo, a top 10 strength of schedule. We'll see how that works out. And that gift will also go to Antonio Pierce and Doug Peterson, which is a playoff or fire kind of year. In my opinion, the Jaguars also have their work cut out for them. Coming in at number 11, we got the Detroit Lions. I think that's totally fair. I think they can handle it. Cowboys at 12. There's a three-way tie with Cowboys, Rams, and Jets. I think this is right about where they should be. Like, these are teams that are capable of, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, of beating their opponents every single time they play. But it's not like the Baltimore Ravens. And why are the Chiefs not here at number 1? I mean, you're a back-to-back Super Bowl champion. All right, then we got the 49ers, who seems a little low to me at 12. They got they're also tied at 12 with all of these, okay? So if you had to put like the Cowboys, Rams, Jets, and Niners in a group, you would probably think that they're about equally as dominant this year. Maybe a couple pull away. Maybe the 49ers are 1, and you got the Jets 2, Dallas 3, Rams 4. However you do it, they're pretty damn close. Then at 16, you got the Cincinnati Bengals and the Chiefs and the Vikings. So that is a three-way tie. That is a three-way tie here for 16, and we've officially made it to and the Commanders. We've officially made it to the middle, and now we're in the bottom half. So all of the teams I'm going to start naming are teams that have a favorable schedule next year, and some of these teams are going to really capitalize on that. At 20, we have the Denver Broncos. They're not tied with anybody. They're totally by themselves with a .495. Then you got the Colts and a three-way tie with 21, Titans, Eagles, and Colts. Then at 24, we have a four-way tie, Chargers, Seahawks, Dolphins, Cardinals. I can see the Dolphins having another really good regular season. Tua throwing for 4,000 yards. Everything good in the neighborhood. But will they be able to get over that hump in the playoffs? And Geno Smith and the Seahawks, this might be his final year. But one of the teams that I think will capitalize on this the most is the Chargers. Now, this is not the same old Chargers. They're coached by Harbaugh, and they're going to, I think they're going to be good right away. There might be a little bit of growing pains, but all-star head coach, all-star quarterback. Yes, they're rebuilding, but if you get an all-star quarterback and an all-star head coach, you're already, on the right path and way ahead of most teams. Okay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, .478. I could see Baker Mayfield kind of having a really good year this year. He's reunited with his offensive coordinator from his brief time with the Rams, but I could see that going really well. Then you got the Carolina Panthers at 29, tied with the Chicago Bears, and this is one of the reasons that people may be picking the Chicago Bears to win the division this year. It's not because they're like, oh, the Bears are so good. No, they are a good team on paper, but they also have one of the easiest schedules in this year's draft or in this year's schedule. And that's not right. That's not how words work. They have a very favorable schedule. Okay. For the amount of talent they have, they seem like the most disposition team. You could make a real argument for that. And then tied at 31, you got the Falcons and the Saints. Of course, simply taking the previous win-loss record and using that over isn't a perfect measure to determine the schedule strength. The writers know it. You know it. The real schedule released, it will be very, very detailed, and it'll have a lot of numbers that factor in off-season moves, travel time, opponents, all of that stuff. So the Falcons are a 7-10 team on paper, but they fixed their biggest need in signing Kirk Cousins, right? So the Atlanta Falcons have the easiest schedule, tied for 31st in the NFL, yet they added their biggest hole in Kirk Cousins. The Texans loaded up on both sides of the ball around CJ Stroud. They should be better than their 10-7 record from a year ago. The Jets view themselves as a Super Bowl contender coming off a 7-10 season because Aaron Rodgers is coming back. So, by contrast, teams like the Denver Broncos and the Raiders are likely potentially worse than the record from last season. I hope that's not true, but football analytics guru Warren Sharp put together his own version of the strength of schedule that includes projected wins totals based on offseason moves. And in Sharp's analysis, the Falcons come away with the NFL's easiest schedule, and the Steelers have the hardest. It's not particularly difficult to see why the Steelers are in a division that features 3 teams with the realistic Super Bowl aspirations. The Falcons, meanwhile, have 6 games against the NFL's worst division. Any fans worried about their team's schedule strength should also breathe a sigh of relief. 5 of the 10 teams with the most difficult schedules last season wound up making the playoffs. Only 4 of the 10 teams with the easiest schedule became postseason teams. So at the end of the day, all you can do is play who you have to play. All you can do is take it one game at a time. Strength of schedule doesn't actually mean all that much. Now it means something. Like if you look at your schedule and you got matchups with the Eagles and the Chiefs and the Bills and the Texans, like these are not easy games. These are very difficult, and there are going to be, that division is going to be another weak one. I think the NFC South, of course, Atlanta's going to rise up with Kirk Cousins, and then you also have the Saints who made some moves, but I think Tampa Bay is going to be much better. So even saying that the NFC South is going to be a weak team next year, I don't know if I would go that far to say that. But that NFL is supposed to release their schedule next Thursday, maybe even this Thursday. It could be sneaky. We're just going to have to wait and see. But we do know that it's coming really soon. Ezekiel Elliott back on the practice field with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, there was one more thing that I wanted to go over, and this was an article written by CBS Sports. Now, they were projecting rookies of the year, bounce back teams in the 2025 number 1 overall pick. Okay, so number 1, who had the most success during the 2024 NFL draft? Most people agree the Steelers. Chicago might have had the most impactful with Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, but for the second consecutive year, the Steelers did really well on a grander scale. They've likely walked away with at least 5 starters, including 3 on the offensive line. They have 2 bigger running backs in Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. They hired Arthur Smith and then signed Russell Wilson. They're built to run the ball downfield and then strategically target George Pickens on downfield attempts. The Commanders also were listed by Chris Tapastro. This is a layup, but I have to take the open lane to the basket on this one. The first 5 selections, Jaden Daniels, Johnny Newton, Mike Sandstill, Ben Signett, and Luke McCaffrey will all be major contributors in Washington. Now, who had the most underwhelming draft? The Titans and the Cowboys. Of course, the Cowboys picked 2 project types with the first 2 selections in what was supposedly an all-in year for the Cowboys. Maybe that slogan shouldn't be uttered again by someone at the top of the organization for a while. Totally agree. Who will be the offensive rookie of the year? Well, there's 2 different opinions here by the 2 different writers. The first one said Caleb Williams, low-hanging fruit here, but offensive rookie of the year is a quarterback award. Williams is walking into a situation where he's throwing to DJ Marquine and Alan Cole-Kmet and Rome Odunze. The offensive line is probably average to above average. It's a great set of circumstances for a rookie quarterback. And the other writer said not a quarterback, right? He said low-hanging fruit, offensive rookie of the year is a quarterback award. His buddy disagrees with him and says Malik Neighbors, Wide receiver, LSU. From blazing downfield speed to over-the-shoulder grabs to ridiculous yards after catch scampers, Neighbors will ignite the Giants' offense with his complete skill set en route to winning this award. So Malik Neighbors, good things ahead, good things projected to be ahead for the New York Giants. And at number 4, who will be the Defensive Rookie of the Year? Terrion Arnold, cornerback out of Alabama. This decision boiled down to Colts pass rusher Latu and Arnold. And I knew Tapasro was taking Latu, so I wanted to provide a different perspective. So the other writer says Latu. So here's the other perspective on Terrion Arnold. When it comes to Rookie of the Year honors, you're looking for an impact performer who's ready to contribute from week 1. Arnold plays for a Detroit team that should make a run in the playoffs. It also has an attacking front, which should allow him to capitalize on the back end. I had Terrion Arnold drafted in my mock. I think he's going to be the Rookie of the Year. But the other writer says Latu. He may not have immense potential because of his age, but he's ready to go as any defensive prospect in this class. And the Colts had a massive need at the edge rusher spot. With Anthony Richardson back entering year 2, the Colts squad should be more competitive, meaning more pass rush opportunities for the super diverse rusher from UCLA. Which rookie is most likely to be a Pro Bowl selection? Dallas Turner, edge, Alabama Vikings. Caleb Williams and Terrion Arnold are certainly in the conversation if I believe they'll win Rookie of the Year awards. However, in order to mix it up, I will say Turner. When looking at the NFC outside of the linebackers who were selected to the Pro Bowl last season, 2 of the 3, Daniel Hunter and Hassan Reddick, have moved to the AFC. And then you got Talise Fuga, the offensive tackle from Oregon State. Of course, he's an instant impact right tackle on a team in dire need of that type of a player in size. And who will be the best day 2 draft? Trey Benson. Okay. And actually, it said who will be the most impactful selection outside of the first round. So one said Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, gone. Mike Williams, gone. Austin Eckler, gone. Gerald Everett, gone. Justin Herbert returns just 33.7% of last year's receptions, and that was likely higher than anticipated because Williams was limited to just 3 games. The Chargers will need someone to take on that workload. Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson are the leading pass catchers, but McConkey is a player positioned to thrive early out of necessity. And also keep in mind that Quentin Johnson still was a project. Big body, drafted really high, I believe, at the end of the first round last year. But somebody that still is learning how to use his body. A big receiver that is playing passively, still, going through some growing pains. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ladd McConkey comes out and works his way up to a number 2, maybe even number 1 role on this offense. I don't see him as a long-term wide receiver 1, but I'm just saying he could have the most catches and yards and touchdowns of this group. We got Little E in the chat. Kyle, what's up, Little E? Happy to have you in here, brother. Trey Benson, running back, Florida State. There's going to be plenty of attention paid to fellow rookie Marvin Harrison Jr., and incumbent starting running back James Conner. That will lead to Benson eventually wiggling his way into the number 1 runner gig with the Cardinals. That will provide sizable rushing lanes. He's big, fast, and elusive. He was my favorite running back in this year's draft. Expect the Cardinals to be one of those teams that runs the ball really well next year. Which team with a top 10 selection is most likely to contend for a playoff spot? Which team with a top 10 selection, so, the 10 worst teams next year, or the top 10 worst teams last year, which one could make it to the postseason? Atlanta. Atlanta is the team in the original top 10 overall draft order that jumps out because of the division in which it plays. The NFC South is wide open, and the offense has talent to hit the ground running with veteran Kirk Cousins under center. And then Vikings. Now, Vikings, I don't know if this is totally allowed because the Vikings didn't start with a top 10 pick, but they traded up to get one. Even if J.J. McCarthy doesn't play from week 1 on, I do think he'll be starting sooner than later. This is a smartly rebuilt roster, even on the defensive side, and Brian Flores is one of the most aggressive and effective schemers on that side of the ball. Healthy Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison in year 2, and TJ Hawkinson and Brandon O'Neal, slowly but surely coming back from injury. This is a playoff caliber team in Minnesota. And really, when you look at the NFC North, you look at the Vikings as the only team that's not a playoff contender. And you could still make an argument that they should be. The NFC North has quickly turned into an actual competitive division instead of the Packers just winning it every single year. The Detroit Lions are going to be tough. The Bears are going to be probably more tough than, Packer fans are used to. And the Vikings have a lot of talent as well. Who will be the number 1 overall selection in the 2024 NFL draft? I think, look at this typo. I got to show you guys this typo. Look at this. Who will be, look at this. Who will be the number 1 overall selection in the 2024 draft? That's supposed to say the 2025 NFL draft. The 2024 draft already happened. Oh my gosh, get a grip. All right, so they're saying it's going to be Carson Beck, quarterback out of Georgia. And by the way, they both agreed about this. While right now the 2025 quarterback class doesn't have the Caleb Williams type, a passer already penciled into this slot. When all is said and done, the experience, arm talent, and production from Beck will earn him the top spot in next year's draft. So that is really funny. You guys know I love when the NFL has typos and stuff like that. And Bill said, Lil E said, doing better than yesterday. Happy to hear that. Keep your head up. He said, New York Jets will make the Super Bowl. And Bill said, I hope so for you, E. I don't mind the Jets at all myself. If it can't be us, it can be our little brother. And Lil E said, hell yeah, Bill. It's been good to see Rodgers. It'll be good to see Rodgers win his second Super Bowl, just like Manning did at the end of his career. And Lily said, how's Angel been? Angel, Angel's been good. He's been around. And last but not least, to close this thing off, I was going to say, D'Amico Ryans responded to J.J. Watt's willingness to return to Houston. And I don't know if you guys heard, but J.J. Watt said if they were pushing for a Super Bowl title, J.J. Watt would return. And this is what D'Amico Ryans said. I've got his number ready to go. J.J. Watt left the door open for a potential return to Houston if the Texans head coach D'Amico Ryans absolutely needs it. The coach won't lose Watt's phone number anytime soon. And he said on Sports Radio 610, I love to hear JJ saying he's ready. I've got his number ready to go in case we need him. I may need to make that call, so I'm happy that's open from him. Watt spent a decade with the Texans before finishing his final 2 pro years with the Cardinals, and then he retired at the close of 2022 campaign. Houston already inducted the legendary pass rusher into its Ring of Honor last year. I don't know if anybody that's been inducted into the Ring of Honor has been an active player before, but that would be a really funny thing, right? Ryans was asked about what circumstances he could envision where he might call Watt. The coach avoided answering the specific question, and he said, I need him now, laughing. I need to make that call right now. Anytime J.J. Watt's ready to go, I'm ready to go. So the entire back and forth is a cute story for May, and while no one questions Watt's ability to return after more than a year away, if the Texans need the future Hall of Famer, things went horrifically sideways. Houston spent the offseason adding to Ryan's defense, including big money to Danielle Hunter, Denico Autry. If Will Anderson takes the expected step forward in 2024 and Hunter stays healthy, the pass rush for the Texans should be menacing. The reality is Ryans will spend the next 8 months not truly considering making that call to Watt, but it's always good to know a Hall of Famer will take your call in case of a true emergency. I I totally agree. So, Bill said, Lil E said, you sitting in well with Zach Wilson in Denver, Kyle. Settling in well. Zach Wilson, nothing's changed. He's our backup quarterback. So, to me, take a backup quarterback from your team. No, your backup quarterback's actually good in Jordan Travis. But think of it like a regular backup that's just been around the league for a long time. Colt McCoy. That's how I feel about it. I just, I don't think about it very much. Bill said, I got Justin Pugh to show up on the New York Revival show. It will come out tomorrow at 5:30 Pacific. I'm just glad the schedule's finally worked out. I'm sure I'll be talked about. That is awesome. That is awesome. Definitely send me the link to that so I can check in and see how that's going. That's freaking cool, Bill. And thank you guys for hanging out with me for an hour during the middle of the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this little NFL update. The schedule release is coming. It might be in 2 days, but max, I think it's going to be in 9 days. So got to kind of get ready for that strength of schedule. We got a lot of work to do. And remember, it's not just about the opponents. It's also about when you play those opponents. Like Andy Reid's the best September coach in the NFL. So if you play the Chiefs in September, you're probably going to lose. I'm going to consider all that kind of stuff in my schedule release, my strength of schedule. And hopefully you guys enjoy all that. Thank you guys for listening, and just pretend this thing I'm about to click that says welcome says thanks for watching, because I don't have a thanks for watching yet, but thank you guys for watching. Please like this video and help my personal YouTube channel grow, and I would really appreciate all that. You guys are the best, and I will see you guys soon.